Every year, the Foundation honors a distinguished Greek American whose career and accomplishments are a testimony to the Foundation's mission and who serves as an example for our scholars to follow. For the presentation of the 2017 Paradigm Award, I am pleased to introduce Mr. John Koudounis, CEO of Kalamos Investments. Mr. Koudounis is a native of Chicago, and he made the city proud when he was honored with the 2016 Paradigm Award. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. John Koudounis.
Thank you. Since he started his venture capital firm over 50 years ago, Mr. Pappajohn has risen to become one of the most admired Greek Americans of our time. As the founder of Equity Dynamics and Pappajohn Capital Resources, Mr. Pappajohn was one of the earliest venture capitalists and is now one of the most renowned and respected business leaders in our country. John rose above childhood family tragedy to become the success he is today. And he credits his optimistic mindset for driving him to achieve. He says that a spirit of unrelenting hope and optimism are hallmark characteristics of a successful entrepreneur. Today, John and Mary, his wife, have become renowned philanthropists, giving millions of dollars to various causes with a focus on education and the arts. John is also a director on the boards of higher education and arts institutions across the United States. Mr. Pappajohn is a visionary investor, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. His career accomplishments and extraordinary dedication to philanthropy make him an ideal role model and exemplary paradigma who is worthy of recognition. The Pan-Hellenic Scholarship Foundation is proud to honor him with the Paradigm Award. At this time, I invite you to learn more about Mr. Pappajohn in the following presentation.
In recent years, John Pappajohn has made headlines for his generous philanthropic gifts, but he's no stranger to adversity. He immigrated from Greece when he was 9 months old and grew up in Mason City, Iowa. His father died when John was just 16 years old. The loss was traumatic, but Mr. Pappajohn has said it forced him to learn how to solve problems. He and his two brothers worked their way through school at the University of Iowa, and it took John 6 years to graduate. After college, Mr. Pappajohn worked for an insurance company in Mason City. In 1969, he left insurance and became one of the early venture capitalists with just $100,000. He established Equity Dynamics Incorporated, a financial consulting entity, and Pappajohn Capital Resources, a venture capital firm in Des Moines, Iowa. Since then, Mr. Pappajohn has been involved in over 100 startups, more than 50 IPOs, and he has served as a director in over 40 public companies. John and his wife, Mary, are generous philanthropists. They've helped establish the John Pappajohn Business Building at his alma mater, the Pappajohn Pavilion, and the Mary Pappajohn Clinical Cancer Center at the University of Iowa Hospital. The couple also gave $30 million to establish entrepreneurial centers at 5 different universities. These centers have helped create and launch over 1,000 new companies. John and Mary also created a scholarship fund for ethnic, disadvantaged, and minority students and have committed $4 million to help a higher education center for 7 universities and colleges in Iowa. John and Mary are also very dedicated to the arts. They're world-renowned art collectors, and from 1997 to 2012, the couple was recognized as one of the top 200 art collectors in the world by Art News magazine. In 2009, they developed and opened the Pappajohn Sculpture Park at the Des Moines Arts Center. The Pan-Hellenic Scholarship Foundation is proud to honor Mr. John Pappajohn with the 2017 Paradigm Award.
Mr. Pappajohn is here today with his wife Mary, his daughter and son-in-law Ann and R.J. Vasilados, and his 2 grandchildren. On behalf of the Pan-Hellenic Scholarship Foundation, it is my pleasure to introduce the 2017 Paradigm Award honoree, John Pappajohn.
Thank you, John, for those kind remarks. To the scholars, if I can do it, you can do it. 88 years ago, I was on a ship with my mother, Maria Pappajohn, leaving the port of Paris, traveling from Greece to Mason City, Iowa, USA, the land of opportunity, to meet my father, George Pappajohn. My father had immigrated to America several years earlier, and he started Evia, a grocery store and meat market named after his state in Greece, Evia. Business was good, and he decided it was the right time to get married. So he journeyed back to Greece to find a wife. Went to his hometown, they lined up all the young ladies. He picked my mother out of a lineup, married in 30 days, pregnant in 30 days, and that's me. My dad was an entrepreneur, but he had to work at the brick and tile plant until he had enough money to start Evia, which was located in a very melting pot neighborhood in Mason City. My father's store was located right across the street from Grant School, my grade school. There were 19 different nationalities in my grade school, which included Russians, Swedes, Romanians, Hungarians, Serbians. We had all of the Latinos and all of the African Americans. But we all learned to get along together. Even though it was a depression, it was the worst of times. Things were bad. I remember things were so bad that we used to save chicken feet and soup bones for the hungry people. There were occasional scuffles, but nothing serious. We all learned to get along together. My early education began at the age 5, working from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week at my father's grocery store, which was open 365 days a year, but we closed a half a day on Christmas. It was situated right in the middle of this international complex. My pay was 10 cents a day, but I could drink all the pop and candy that I could drink and eat. I have the distinction, I want the scholars to know, I had to go to kindergarten for 2 years because I could not speak any English. I could only speak Greek, but it didn't seem to bother me. It made me try harder. And my kindergarten teacher, who had no children, filed a legal request to adopt me. Obviously, my parents prevailed. In addition to my grocery experience, in order to make more money than my dad paid me, I became the consummate entrepreneur and scavenger. Every morning in the summer and on the weekends, I would take 2 gunny sacks and go to the city dump. And I sort through and process. I would process lead, copper, and rags. I would do anything to make a few bucks so I could put some money in the bank and save for college. I feel very strongly that you learn something from every job that you do. And I tell the scholars, always have some job, some work. If you don't work, it will change, it will absolutely hurt your career. A prescription for good mental health is a job. As was mentioned, I was 16 when my father died, and it did change my life. My father was a chain smoker. I had 2 younger brothers and a mother who could speak no English. But it ended up being a positive event in my life, and I think it was also, I know it was a positive event in the life of my brothers, because all 3 of us learned to make decisions, and we learned how to survive and move forward with our lives. One of my favorite quotes is, "Adversity is a blessing in disguise." And remember, it's either the best of times or the worst of times, and it doesn't really make a difference. If you've got something to do, do it. There was much discrimination in my early days because we lived on the wrong side of the tracks. I was even turned down by the Boy Scouts because they said I was not Boy Scout material. And the reason, I was Greek and I was on the wrong side of the tracks. Obviously, the Boy Scouts are not on my philanthropy list today. On the positive side, I had fabulous grade school teachers. They were outstanding and provided me with a challenging education that allowed me to catch up and excel in my studies. In addition, the principal of my grade school was a major supporter of mine and a mentor, and he continued to influence me in my academic activities. He subsequently became superintendent of schools in Mason City and continued to be my mentor. I've always believed in relationships. I believe in networking. And at an early age, one of my business partners was the scrap dealer who introduced me to the president of the bank, which allowed me to get my first line of credit. And by the way, I learned later that the president of the bank had 2 sons. One went to Harvard and the other one went to Stanford. At that time, I had no knowledge of either one of these 2 fine institutions. Their mother obviously did not want the boys in the scrapyard. The scrap dealer became my very close friend and told everyone that I was his best customer. But as a result of our familial tragedy, my family bonded together, and my 2 brothers, Aristotle and Socrates, and I alternated going to school, working in the family grocery store with our mother so that we could all get a degree from the University of Iowa. As was mentioned, it took me 6 years to graduate. But the important thing is, for the scholars, when I graduated, I had $2,000 of cash in my checking account and no debt. I worked every day as a butcher. I worked at the grocery store because I learned that trade when I was a young man. I worked before classes. I worked every noon hour, and I got to eat all this salami and smoked carp that I could eat for lunch. And I worked all day Saturday. To the scholars, I do not believe in student loans. They're an albatross and a major impediment upon graduation and may thwart your efforts to dream and to become more optimistic. Please try not to borrow any more money than you have to. You're all very special people, But you know, as I look out over the group and I observed all of you with all of your degrees, it's still difficult to predict who the winner is going to be. As I look out, and I think I will discuss that in a little bit. As you can tell, I'm a dreamer. I dream, I fantasize. I'm going to be 89 years old next month, and I fantasize all the time. I only hope that God will give me the time to accomplish my dreams. I'm a great Iowa football fan. However, I never attended a home football game when I went to college because I worked every Saturday. Upon graduation, I did not interview for a job. I always knew that I wanted to start my own business. And I ended up starting an insurance agency because it didn't take any capital. And after a few successful years, I met a gentleman from Chicago who changed my life. I corresponded for 2 years with W. Clement Stone, president of Combined Insurance Company of America, Chicago, whose book and philosophy of life is Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. He flew to Mason City, Iowa on a Saturday morning to talk to the life underwriters, and since I happened to be president at the time, I picked him up in my Volkswagen. Well, he didn't like my car very much, and I found out later that he owned a Series 600 Mercedes with a chauffeur. But his first statement to me when he opened the door was, "Why don't you start your own life insurance company?" I says, "Mr. Stone, I don't have any money." He says, "You don't need any money. Buy my book." He didn't offer to give me one. He said, "Buy my book, Success Through PMA, Positive Mental Attitude, and write me." And one of the chapters in the book states that if you tell your friends and family what you plan to do, you must follow through or you will be a failure. Failure is not in my vocabulary. With this new relationship, I acquired the mantra PMA, again, Positive Mental Attitude, and I became the PMA kid for the rest of my life. I decided to follow my dream. But before I started the Guardsman, I took time off to get married. My wife, Mary, the love of my life. We've been married 56 years, and the relationship gave me a partner and stability at home for the rest of my life, which allowed me to work when necessary on my various business activities. And she's my partner in all of our social activities. In fact, she leads me around. The Guardsman life was my first significant entrepreneurial project. And I told my family and friends I was going to start a life insurance company. I began by going to the library, I read up. I had never been in a home office of a life insurance company. And I began to organize a board of directors. So I traveled the state of Iowa, and I went to all the major cities, and I asked, who is the most successful businessman? They told me, and I contacted these people, and I was able to put together a very impressive board of directors. I was amazed to discover that I was able to recruit successful business people for a brand new insurance enterprise. During my travels, I slept in my car because I couldn't afford a hotel room. At my first board meeting, my board and I decided to hire a president because I did not have the operating knowledge. We raised $2 million. We did a public offering. $2 million doesn't sound like much, but back then it was a lot of money, and it was not very easy. But the Guardsman Life was a very successful life company. And when we sold it, excuse me, 7 years later, the original investors made 500% on their money. It was boring. It was not exciting for me. And to the scholars, if you have a job and you don't love it, change. I don't have a job. Work is not a job for me. You must love what you do, and that will help you to become very, very successful. So I decided to find a new profession. It was 1969. I read the Wall Street Journal, and one day I read about a new business. And the new business was venture capital. Never heard of it before. And at that time, a new fund was started in Chicago by a gentleman by the name of Ned Heiser. He raised $36 million and made all the newspapers. It was the biggest fund at that time that anyone had organized. By today's standards, it's not very much money, but it sounded like an exciting business for me, and I decided to tell the world that I'm going to become a venture capitalist, and I did. I accumulated $100,000. I rented an office, and somebody was looking out after me, because soon after that, a gentleman from San Diego called me. He was raising capital for his company, and after much discussion, I became the lead director in K Laboratories, which subsequently produced for me 5 spin-off public companies, including one startup called Caremark, a Chicago company today which has a market cap of many billions of dollars. That helped my wife and I buy more art. As John mentioned, I've been involved in over 50 public offerings and a director in more than 40 public companies. I've also been called the Opportunity Kid, and I've always felt that I was a chosen one. I want you to know I was a chosen one by God to succeed, and as a result, I feel obligated to pay back through philanthropy to those more unfortunate and needy. My mother always told me, honey, the more you give, the more that will be returned to you. And in my case, I want you all to know it is true. Philanthropy makes you feel good. And to the young scholars in the room, philanthropy is not just cash. The Greek word, be kind to people, go out of your way, help others that are more unfortunate than you. I'm going to challenge you tonight. How many of you want to be philanthropists? Raise your hand. How many of you want to be philanthropists? I can't tell. How many? Some don't? Let me take a poll. Who doesn't want to be a philanthropist? Is there anybody here? Okay, I'm going to test you tonight. I'm going to test you. Envelopes, please. I have an envelope for each one of you, and in that envelope is a $100 bill. And that $100 bill is for you to spend any way you want to. After dinner tonight, you go out and have drinks, have a good time, whatever you want. But if you want to be a philanthropist, you can take that $100 bill and leave it in the envelope and turn it over to the Panhellenic Scholarship Foundation. Those of you who give it back will become philanthropists. You're philanthropists. You will be on the mailing list of the Panhellenic Scholarship Foundation. And I want to remind you that you have to learn to give back to society. It's wonderful to receive scholars, but it's more fun to give. Since I don't remember all your names, from now on I'm going to call everybody here Phil for short. Phil, short for philanthropist. My reasons for sharing my yellow brick road tonight is to confirm that the opportunities today in this wonderful country are unlimited if you're willing to pay the price. America, we can all experience the American dream. One of my former company presidents, Richard Turner, used to sing a Butch Stone song. Everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to die. Everybody wants to be rich. Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to pay the price. It's my challenge to the scholars. Are you willing to pay the price to be successful? When I started, I said, if I can do it, you can do it. Now, repeat after me. Come on. If I can do it, you can do it. This is scholars. Come on. Louder. If I can do it, you can do it. That's right. And remember that a successful life must include service to society. Society to help our fellow man. This is how we shall be judged. We must all try to make a difference in the world. I'm mighty proud to be a Greek American in this wonderful country, America, the land of opportunity. God bless America. God bless us all. And to the scholars, don't ever forget, if I can do it, you can do it. Thank you very much. Good luck to you all. Good luck. Enjoy the evening.
Congratulations, Mr. Pappajohn. You are truly an inspiration. Am I right? Now I have the honor of introducing the chairman of the Pan-Hellenic Scholarship Foundation, Mr. Robert A. Buehler. Mr. Buehler joined the board of the foundation in 2010, and he was handpicked by founder Chris Tomaras to lead the foundation. He was appointed chairman of the board in 2015 and led the foundation through a very difficult and emotional transition year, along with the foundation's trustees, John Manos and Tom Sotos, and the board of directors. Mr. Buehler is an avid Philhellene who ardently supports higher education and Hellenism. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the chairman, Mr. Robert Buehler.
Thank you. Thank you. Here you are. Good evening.